Hello everyone, this is John,
This is Rusty.
and welcome to episode 4 of the Purple Curtain podcast. Today we're both going to be putting together a sort of fantasy senbatsu of members we'd pick if we were in charge, and I'm sure you will hope that someday we will be. So we haven't decided who's going to go first, so we're just going to do rock, paper, scissors right now, and whoever wins gets to go first. So I'm just going to count it down. 3, 2, 1, rock. Did you say rock as well?
Yes.
Oh, I'll have to go again. Okay, 3, 2, 1, paper.
Paper.
Okay, we get that happen again. 3, 2, 1, paper.
Oh. You win.
Okay, I win. So I'm going to start with the centre position, and the centre that I have chosen is Ikuta Erika. I've chosen Ika-chan for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, we were talking in the last couple of episodes about how Nogizaka's music kind of has problems at the moment, and I kind of think that if they're going to sort of do a big statement single, musically speaking, Ika-chan is easily the best equipped to deal with any vocal requirements, more so than Mayan or Asuka. So if they want to do a big musical single, I think Ikuta would be the person to choose. The other thing is that I think that Nogizaka gets a lot of strength out of the fact that it's not as though centers are rotated for every single, but there's quite a deep pool of members who would do well if chosen as center, and I kind of think that's something that's a good thing to keep up. So it would be quite a good idea to have Ika-chan, Mayan, and Asuka all as possible centers going forward into the future. So that's why I chose Ika-chan. Who did you choose?
Interesting. I like the rationale you went for your center and probably your whole senbatsu, because I went for something that's quite different. My thinking is based upon who I think is don't usually get a chance to be in the front row center, and I feel like if I have the opportunity to determine senbatsu for once, what would I do to address this situation? So the center I chose is Reika. Reika is someone who's very good at both singing and dancing. She might have a reputation for being a ponkotsu, and I mean, it's a well-deserved reputation, to be honest. But yeah, she is a very strong member when it comes to the singing, the dancing, and all the other stuff that you need to do. So, yeah. I
guess it's also kind of, I think our priorities are kind of coming out a bit here, because, when I sort of say where I put Reika, I've kind of been thinking the same kind of things as you, but I just kind of don't think of dance as being all that important. So I guess you're right though, Reika's, good all round. So, if you're sort of if you just want a competent center, Reika's actually a really good person to choose. Plus, actually, I think Reika's actually extremely charming, so if they had to go on TV with Reika as center, I think it would actually be quite good.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, ponkotsu might have a somewhat negative connotation. Maybe not, but I mean, it means you're incompetent in a sense. But it actually make her quite endearing often when it comes to variety. She's just so silly and goofy sometimes that you can't help but find her charming. And yeah, and also for me, it's just that I don't think she get much resources these days. There was a short while where she was kind of pitched. She was kind of in the front row for Hashide Bicycle. But then eventually, I feel like she's just relegated to a sideline. I mean, she's never gone. She's always somewhat prominent, but she's never prominent enough to be in the front or to be in the center. So I feel like if I do have opportunity, I do want to try to see people like Leika who I feel like have good potential, is a good member of the talent, to have opportunity to be their friend and see what that will bring, and maybe it will bring something unexpected.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you kind of just alluded to something I was thinking as well, which is, if any member has kind of like, I know I hate using the term, but I don't really think I can avoid it. If any members like earns the right to be front row or centre, it's Reika. She's given such an enormous amount of, like effort and dedication to the group over the years. So, I think I think any reward is fitting for her, really.
That's true. It's a shame that Wakatsuki is graduating, because one of the hope I had was for double center with Reika and Wakatsuki, but I guess that's not to be.
Yeah, that would have been. What I'd like a peak emo single similar to. Do you know anything about Equal Love?
Barely anything, to be honest.
Do you know Teokore Caution by Equal Love?
No.
Well, if any of our listeners do know Teokore Caution by Equal Love, I would have quite liked to have a sort of like very dramatic emo single in that style with Reika and Okatsuki as double center. But moving on to the sort of center left position in the formation, like from our perspective, I have got Mayan there. And it's a very predictable choice, but I'm a big Mayan fan. She's easily the most recognizable face of the group, and I kind of feel as though not only logically could I not push her any further back than that, I also didn't want to. And it's like, the other thing is that usually the three members who get talked to on TV are the centre and the two members either side of them. So I think it's quite a good thing if you also have Mayan doing a lot of the talking on TV as well, as the most recognisable member.
True.
So, yeah, it's, like a very safe choice, so there's not much to talk about there, really. Who have you put there?
For me, I do have Mayan and senbatsu. I'm just gonna spoil myself. But she's not the friend, actually. For me, the center left is, where Sayuri. Sayu is also kind of Reika. I feel like she has a lot of skill. She's very good at singing. She's also decent at dancing, and she can do that jump rope skill she showed on TV a few times. So she's a good all-rounder, and she came a long way.
Just to be clear here, we're talking about Inoue Sayuri, not Matsumura Sayuri.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So you casual out there, you know the difference now. Yeah, in a way she's been there since, at the same time Sayuri, she's been there since the first gen, and always been a senbatsu regular, but never quite broke out, never quite been their friend, but, semi-prominent enough. And it's really similar to the logic of why I put Leika in center, but maybe a little bit weaker, I guess, like when it comes to overall popularity. But nonetheless, she's still very popular, and she have her PB coming out, so that tells you everything or two. So yeah, I would like to see her in the Friends.
This actually kind of reminds me. It's like, I'm sure they've never done this because it's very, very not classy. But I always thought it would be quite interesting idea to like take members who've got like some project coming out and sort of like put them up front so they can just like plug it on TV. I mean, like it's totally crass and tasteless, but like as a fan of the group already, I quite enjoy it.
I think there's good reason to do that. I mean, sometimes I do that, and I think it's totally fair in the entertainment world, right? To promote your stuff.
Yeah, so So yeah, like, I mean, I can already see that, like, I thought I'd sort of like thrown curveballs in here, but like looking at it now, it looks really boring compared to what I think you're going to come up with. Um, but the person I've got on the centre right
Mm-hmm.
is Asuka.
Mm.
Again, just because I kind of think one of the things that I sort of had in my mind was I would actually quite like to use first gen as much while we still have them.
Mm.
But we also kind of need to keep in mind that we've got to give like a certain amount of exposure for the members that we sort of expect to drive the group forward
Mm-hmm.
in the coming years. So yeah, I put Asuka centre right. Between the members that I've sort of like spoken about so far, I was really, really close between the three of them of who I would choose.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I think it's important to sort of like keep Asuka kind of like where people can see her and sort of like get used to her
Mm-hmm.
being like the face of the group. But also, like there's no need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just get rid of first gen completely, because that would just be just so wasteful.
Yes,
And it's
yeah.
something that I saw AKB start to do, sort of like start to underuse sort of like very useful popular members for no particular reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Asuka and Ikuchan are both really quite young still, so there is totally no reason to like shaft him, like, and consider like later gen should be the only future when you think about it. They're both still very young, and if they want to, they can still stick around in the group for a long time.
Yeah, it really kind of Asuka and Nikita. I really have no idea how long the two of them are going to stick around for, because Nogizaka's quite a good group for members who start to like age in idol terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't really seem as though anyone sort of gets pushed aside for that particular reason. But also, Ika-chan's got so much going on outside.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what she want to do.
Yeah, for Ikuchan, she totally can graduate right this moment, and she will still be doing fine. So it really is up to her to consider what she wants to do. It won't be because of like reasons like she needs to graduate to go find something to do, or she has nothing else to do in Ogi. Like, I guess it depends on what she wants to do. Right? I feel like she's sticking around because she's like, and she enjoys being in a group.
So yeah, I mean, I've got Asuka there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, quite a safe choice. Who have you got there?
I got Misa, and I feel like the logic is not too different from Misa. I mean, from why you choose Asuka. Like, I also want to see first gen get to like do stuff and show what they can do before they go. And I feel like for Misa, that logic is very applicable, since she is much older than many other members, and there's a potential for her to graduate anytime, like this moment, even, who knows. And yeah, she's also one of those members who's been there and been prominent since the beginning. In fact, she had to fight her way to the top, since she's one of those members that management never seems to favor much for whatever reason. And yeah, she also have a really good singing voice. Maybe not as good a dancer as Leika, but also a really good singer. So with Leika, Inoue, and Misa in their front as their front and center three, I think that they can make very good of their vocal, and potentially the song can be really good if they have something that fit them.
I also think it's interesting is if you look at those members, there's a sort of like sliding scale of hair color there as well.
That's true. That's true. Mm-hmm. It's also interesting to know that they all have musical experience. Maybe they have the most, or maybe we're not too sure, but they're all experienced musical performer. So if management is creative enough, they can go with something that's different and unique.
Yeah. So, like on the far left centre row, that's where I've put Reika.
Mm.
Because I felt I felt really strongly that while I kind of like had to play it quite safe for the middle, you know, like all the things we were talking about earlier, you know, like Rika's been massively important to the group. But also, you know, like there's things like, as you said, you know, like she's a great performer. She's got great sort of like presence, and that's something which I kind of think gets missed when they go on TV, because the camera never looks at Reika because she's in the wrong place. So I think it would be quite a good thing to have her as close to the front as possible.
That makes sense.
You know, like, and obviously, you know, like personal bias is playing in here as well, because I really like Reika, so you know, I thought I'd sort of like just let myself be biased and put her in the front row there.
I'm sure there's like degree of bias influence everyone's senbatsu if they were allowed a free hand to choose one. So that's
well,
fair.
I think bias kind of like influences the people they actually pick as well. I think management picks the members that they like, as you said. You know, like Misa's positions have always been pretty rubbish because I think the producers don't like her that much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, we are fans. We are making a fantasy senbatsu, so I feel like we should be able to have a freer choice. But if you're the producer, the management, you should not let your bias kind of determine things too much. And I feel like for me, that's the case. Like, she was popular, she always been popular, and yet she somehow always have a rather rough position, especially relative to popularity. And that's not a shame, because she have a good personality, she have good skill, and it's just undermined, right?
Yeah. So who have you put there?
For the far left, right?
Yeah, far left.
For the far left, I put Ki-chan.
Ki-chan.
Yes, and the reason for her is because I feel like she was doing well, and then she needs to took the hiatus, and I think that's a good thing. She probably needed, and it's good to see her recovered. But when it comes to like career development, I do feel like she took a hit. Like there was momentum, there was like a path to the top, and that got cut in half, and now she's back, and I think she's doing okay, but there was that sense of what could happen, right? And I feel like if I can put her in the front, even if it's just for one single temporarily, maybe that can help recoup the lost momentum, that can help showcase her more, and I feel like that's something that would help a lot.
Yeah,
as well.
No, that's good. I mean, when I was thinking about where I put Ki-chan, I was kind of thinking, like, where I kind of think she should be. But now that, you know, like I'm sort of thinking about it, it might have actually been a bit better if I placed her further forward, because, as you said, you know, like I think Ki-chan is one of the members who needs a bit of help. You know, just to sort of like stabilise her career. So yeah, it might have actually been better if I put her further forward. But it's too late now, so
it's alright. I mean, there's always next single.
But yeah, no. Again, I love Ki-chan. I'd be very happy to see her there.
It's also will be a good time to promote her follow book too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about your far right?
And also I do. It might have been quite good if. I mean, I totally failed to do this, but it might have been quite good if we'd had like a member from all of the gens somewhere in the front room, in the front row, not the front room. I failed to do that though, again, because yeah, I always think of stuff like this after I've finished doing something. So the person I've got on the far right will surprise absolutely no one. It's Kaz. Who I put on the far right because, I mean, firstly, personal bias, obviously. The other thing though is I kind of slightly I put Reika and Kaz further forward because I think they're the members who sort of like had the hardest time in specifically in recent months with sort of like so many of their friends leaving.
That's true.
So again, I thought it might be quite a nice thing to sort of like give them a bit of a boost for that specific reason. And also because one of the things that I sort of felt quite strongly is when Kaz was in front row, I thought she was very, very good at sort of like bringing her personality with her whenever they went on TV. And, you know, like with some of the more recognisable faces leaving, I'm kind of like, I think that when they go on TV and they sort of like chat to hosts and stuff, they won't be quite sure like who to talk to. And Kaz is always a great outlet for that kind of thing. So, I mean, you know, I'm trying to give some kind of justification for my position. It's just because I think she's great. I'm, you know, sort of like wildly flailing, trying to sort of like come up with some rationale for this. But yeah, I've got Kaz on front row right.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, Kaz is very likable. She's really good at communicating with people, and she has a book. It's time to know her book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as for me, for the far right, I have Umezawa there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do have Oshija in the front. Ha!
Yeah, there you go. Rusty knows what he's doing. I don't have a clue. Only half sarcastic there.
So yeah, Umezawa. The reason I have Umezawa in the front is because, I mean, there's many virgins that have a bright future, that have a lot of potential. But when it comes to Umezawa, my fear is that she's the one that management will overlook.
Yeah.
Like I think she's one of those particular type. Like I think every gen have one. For first gen is Misa. For second gen is Maijun. For third gen is Umezawa. They're the type that are able to get very popular mostly by themselves. But despite being a fan favorite, it's the type that management don't favor for a reason. And it's not like she don't have any resource at the moment. It's just that she's clearly not their favorite one. She's clearly not the push one. The one that is pushed and favored by management is Momoko and Yoda. And my fear is that, yeah, she will get overlooked, and despite her potential, she will not be able to truly shine. So,
and I think there's an important point here, because I actually think that Miniman has got almost as much potential as, you know, like Mizuki or Yoda. But I think you're right. It's kind of like, unless management actually acknowledges it, I don't think she'll ever be able to sort of like become the important member of the group that not only does she deserve to be, that the group needs as well.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like the group needs third gen members to be really, really successful. But if management doesn't actually do something and sort of like go along with that, we could find members like Miniman not being as popular as they kind of deserve to and the group needs them to be. So yeah, I think it's a good choice there.
Yeah, so yeah, that's basically the reason why I put her there, just to ensure that she don't get like pushed down and actually got to be able to fulfill her potential.
So yeah, going to the next row, I'm going to start with the two members in the middle, behind the front three. So there I've got, on the left I've got Yamashita Mizuki. So again, like, not a particularly surprising choice, but I kind of think that Mizuki's got a lot of potential. But also, you know, like, I think we were talking about the there's quite a lot of popular third gens.
Mm-hmm.
And they all kind of need a push, and I kind of think that of the sort of like very, very popular third gens,
Mm-hmm.
Minimin and Mizuki have got slightly less.
That's true.
Plus, I really, really like her. I think she's like a very, very striking member in performances as well. I think like her actual skills aren't as good as someone like Reika, but she's got a lot of presence on stage. So I chose Mizuki.
That's fair. Are you going to talk about the second person in the middle, or should I do mine first?
Yeah, let's both do ours one after another.
Okay. For me, I have Ikuchan in there, one in the middle too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think for my second row, you will see a lot more of their usual members and their friends, like the stable members. And Ikuchan's one of them. And she also has potential too, of course. Ikuchan and Asuka both are very young and still have a future if they want to stick around in Ogi. But yeah, for my rationale for second row member are mostly members who can hold a fort, who are popular, and who the general public can easily recognize. So that include people like Ma-Yang, Ikuchan, Asuka, and yeah, they're mostly in the second row. I spoiled myself again, but yeah, that's my rationale.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, and yeah, also I feel like because they still have a potential to develop quite well, that's why I put them right behind their center.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like part of the reason why I put Ikuchan further forward is like what you were talking about with Mizura and Sairi and Ki-chan, which is that I kind of feel like quite often Ikuchan has kind of like got not the worst deal, but like a pretty bad deal compared to other members.
That's true.
What do you think about how popular she is and sort of like, because the other thing is like Ikuchan contributes an enormous amount because like for most Nogizaka singles when you listen to them, about 25% of the vocals just is Ikuchan as well.
That's true.
Like, so like from that viewpoint, I kind of think like Ikuchan is sort of like given like quite a lot without getting as much back, but you've put her in a pretty good position as well. So so for me on the right of that center too, I've got unsurprisingly I've got Yoda because it's predictable, but I kind of think that Zuki and Yoda do make quite a good pair together. And also, I guess like the thing is I think Yoda is a kind of like a strange case because I think that the public are never going to sort of like like take to her and sort of like admire her in the same way that say like Ma-Yan is admired by people, but I think she appeals to sort of like the general public in a different way, which is sort of like because she's so super cute. I think quite a lot of people have the same reaction to her as like fans do, not as loudly, but kind of like I think a lot of the people sort of like watching TV will sort of like look at her and think, isn't she so cute? This is kind of like what we expect from idols.
Yeah. I guess she gave you a puppy feeling.
Yeah,
right?
She does.
Yeah. They should just broadcast her bonus video on national television, and I think that will help a lot.
Yeah, it's like radio exercises to sort of like get up your like morale for the day, but with less effort.
Yeah.
So I've got Yoda. Who have you got?
I got Asuka.
Asuka.
And yeah, and the logic's just like Ikuchan really. She's one of the popular member that will hold her for, but also she and Iko-chan are both members who have a good future, and being right behind center is a good position to both like develop and to both, since they're popular, to hold the fort, right?
Yeah, and Asuka is like another member who's good on TV, and sort of like the TV camera sort of like looks at that sort of like cone that extends out from the person standing in the center.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like if you can get quite a lot of Asuka on TV, I think that's quite good during performances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like she's unexpectedly good for a lot of people on TV. Like, she's not obviously comedic, but like she's very interesting. I guess she's very quirky in a sense.
Yeah, Asuka is really, really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that's not her sort of like idol persona, but she is really, really funny, and that definitely never hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And also kind of like girls like Asuka, which is good, because you need people like that to sort of. I think you need people like that for groups to be viable, really. I think if it's just men who are fans, firstly, like you're just losing a huge fan base for no real reason.
Mm-hmm.
And also kind of, like it helps. If the fan base is too male dominated, it just sort of like really heightens the sense that what you're a fan of is weird. And that's like, yeah, it's never good to feel that way.
Yeah. And Loki does have a tradition of having like a strong female fan base, mostly due to their fashion work. So having Asuka there is a very good idea, since I feel like a lot of female fans like her mostly through fashion work. So putting her there, and that's a good place to get exposure and to show people that she's still there.
So the person I've got to the left of them is Akimoto Manatsu. Because, we were talking, like, people who've actually listened to all 3 episodes so far will realise that, like, I don't talk about Manatsu that much, but I'm very, very fond of her. So, again, just like, it's just like bias coming into play. I almost feel like Manatsu could quite easily be in the first row as well, and she'd sort of like do credit to it. I guess I sort of like put her in the second row because I had quite specific reasons for the sort of like the 7 members we talk about so far. And Manatsu was kind of like the first member who I sort of like came to, who I wanted to put in, but didn't have a sort of like specific place in mind, so I put her as far forward as I could. I mean, like, again, I think Manatsu is a good member to have because she's very, very sort of like positive. She does really well on TV. And also just sort of like, she's got a huge fan base who I kind of feel don't get that much.
That's true.
Manatsu I kind of feel is in that strange position of quite often being within, like the top 6 or 7 most popular members, but never actually being in that position.
That's true.
So yeah, Manatsu is great. I put her there.
Okay, so for me, under center left, I guess. Well, center left. I have Mayan there.
You've got who there?
Mayan,
right.
Yeah, she had. I can't imagine her being more behind than second row. And yeah, like as long as she's in the group, there's no way she's going to be absent. But she's too popular, and yeah, I mean she have a lot of female fans. I feel like while I didn't have her in the front because of reasons I mentioned beforehand, that I want to have members who I feel like are kind of overshadowed to have a chance to shine. I feel like putting Young in second row is still reasonable, I guess. Like,
I think You could put Mayan in the second row and it won't affect her career or anything.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
It's not like a sort of like it's not like a kind of like harsh choice really.
hmm like having her in, like you can almost say having her there is more for the sake of the group than for the sake of her.
Yeah.
hmm So yeah, I guess that's my rationale for having her there. She's like there holding the fort and yeah, helping the front row member get exposure.
And like in much the same way, I've got Misa on the other side, on the right.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, kind of, I feel like I've actually kind of done what the producers end up doing quite a lot, which is when they don't know what to do with Misa, they just sort of like put her in a position which is like not too bad, not too good. Because they kind of like don't have any specific thing that they want to do with her. But again, like just sort of like she's so popular and she does so much for the group. I just like honestly don't feel as though it's fair to put her any further back than that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess it's a good insight into what might be going on in their mind of those management when they're putting senbatsu together. So there's these members, they want to push what they like, they put in their front, and then there's Misa, and they're like,
It's one of those situations where, I think ideally you'd have Misa in first row like about 4 or 5 times during her career, but where are you going to put those singles, like I think people are always sort of like saying, well, we'll put her further forward next time, and then there just never is a next time.
True. Like, I guess maybe she might just be unlucky in the sense she don't have an advocate among management.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
So there's that. Who have you put in there?
For me, for the center right, I have Matsun there.
Matsun.
Yes, Matsun Murasari. I think one thing very interesting about Matsun is that I feel like she have a decent amount of casual popularity these days. And I guess it's not too weird, it's just a little bit surprising, because her career trajectory was that she was the top 3, she was Gosanke, which referred to Mayang, Nanami, and Sayuri. And then Nanase broke through the top 3, and then slowly it kind of collapsed, and there's like...
Her popularity's been a bit all over the place, hasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, she was...
Because it's not just a decline,
Yeah, like, she was surpassed by a lot of people, and then there was a decline, and I wouldn't say that she have a lot of hardcore fans nowadays even, and I think she have a decent amount of casual fan for some reason, and it's not weird either, because she does have a lot of good work. Like, she have modeling work, she goes on various television show, like she's the host for that successor to Umazuki, that horse race show that Maya hosts. She go on various anime-related programs. So there's that Bilibili Ingoping, that show on Bilibili, the Chinese streaming website. She does a show there that talk about anime with her Chinese girl who also happens to be in SME. Like, she have a lot of work, she have a lot of outside work, so I can see why she have a strong casual fan base. And yeah, I think it's important that there's people who can attract casual fans.
Yeah, plus casuals don't care about Matsun's scandal.
True.
True. I know we don't, like you and me, we like couldn't care less about Matsun's scandal, but there's definitely a lot of hardcore fans out there who are really pissy about this kind of thing. I guess it's like good because it kind of feels as though Matsun's fans have kind of like seemed to have replaced the people who got really pissed off with her over that.
That's true. And there's one more thing about Matsun that I should mention before I forget. She's very good at promoting others. Like there's the Sayori Gogendan where she have Danze, Kotoko, and Kalin in the group, and none of those three are exactly prominent or famous. She kind of just grab them and form a group because they share a hobby or other reason that's not like career development reason, but just people like these are people she like want to promote. And yeah, she sometimes does that with others too, and I feel like having her there, and if she can have the opportunity to work her magic, sometimes she'll be able to promote people and help others realize that there's this person or there's this other person in the group too.
So, the person I've got on the far left, that's where I put Minimin.
That's fair.
And I was kind of like, I really like her, so I would have actually liked to have had her further forward. But I ended up putting her there because it's not a great position, but because Minimin is very tall, if you actually put her on the end, she's actually still quite visible.
True.
Because in like all the long shots, you can just see Minimin's head like above everyone else.
That's true.
So, I think we sort of like went through a lot of my thoughts about Minimin when we were talking about where you placed her. Like actually, I think she is a really, really good member and sort of like is actually going to be really important to the group going forward. Ideally. But like second row is pretty good for third gens. It's not like a bad placing. So, I put her there because I think it's sort of like it's enough to keep her momentum going.
Yeah, I think second row for Virgin is very fair by all accounts. I think only it's like we do have a few instances of Virgin in the first row, but I feel like that's like very exceptional. I feel like in being second row is more than fair.
But I definitely wanted to put her in. I've kind of like, especially in the last like 3 or 4 months, have just kind of like really, really started liking her. I think she's like a great. I mean, she's not funny, but she's got pretty much anything else you could hope for from an idol.
True.
It's like
she's also, yeah.
Like she's got like a great personality. She seems really, really warm, and I kind of think that she's great at sort of like taking that warmth she's got and sort of like giving it to fans.
True. I feel like she's captain material, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting thought, because I mean, I think a lot of fans are kind of like worried about Reika graduating because Reika's sort of like had some like kind of like stuff to deal with this year, and she's sort of like getting older and kind of like I think she maybe is sort of like starting to become jaded because she sort of like put in a lot of effort over the years for maybe less back than she kind of should have got.
Yeah, like I don't know what's the chance of her graduating, but if it ever happens, I do think Umezawa's a great captain choice. Although I do wonder, does that diminish her chance of being center or anything? Although I guess the chance of her being center was never high to begin with.
Yeah, I think she'd be. I think it's one of those things where we don't really know about this.
True.
Like, all we know is that we know that sort of like there's a group of third gen members who all sell out their handshake tickets in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't know is how many actual applications they've got.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of actual applications is what I think management will probably look at when they're trying to determine which member is most popular.
Mm-hmm.
But we as fans will never get to know what that number is.
That's true.
I'm kind of hoping Minimin's actually quite close to being top of that group.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be something that because I'd actually like to see a Minimin center because I think she kind of I think she sums up a lot of what's good about the group.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's sort of, like she's nice and calm and relaxing, and sort of like she's like calm and relaxing and warm. And I think that that's kind of like the image that sort of like the group wants to get across to people, and she is actually perfect for that, really.
That's true.
So anyway, yeah. You know, like I think everyone who listens, whoever does listen, kind of like knows we love Minimin, so maybe we kind of need to move on from it a bit.
That's true.
Who did you put there?
I put Kubo Shiori there.
Okay.
The logic's kind of similar to Kijang's.
You know what? I actually think I may as well spoil this and just say I've put Kuboshi in the same position on the other side. So we might as well talk about why we've both put her there now.
That's a good idea. Yeah, so as I was saying, Kubo, my rationale for putting Kubo there is kind of similar to Kijang's. I think she was someone that was doing well, but then things came up and she took a hiatus. And like I said, I think hiatus affair is first and foremost most important to take care of your health and make sure you're doing okay when it comes to your well-being. But yeah, it does kind of damage your momentum. And she was one of the top four, I think. Like I think the original version top four was Yoda, Momoko, Mizuki, and Kubo, and I think she's in a relatively weaker position nowadays. But I think
I'm just going to actually look up the handshake numbers that I did for the last episode, because I actually think Kubo is one of the members who has actually kind of like started selling out in the second round fairly early on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
yeah, I don't have the exact number of me right now, but I do recall she was doing really well. It's like she was a phenomenal seller, and she's also a big Nogi fan, so it's always good to have a Nogi fan who like know things and is really passionate about a group and somewhere prominent.
Yeah,
but yeah,
as you know, like as we were talking about in the previous episode, Kiboshi is one of the sort of like group of members who sold out all the slots that were ever given to them.
Mm-hmm.
And for both Itsuka Dekiru and for Kylie Michi, she sold all of those out in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like she's obviously like always been very popular. I kind of had some of the same thoughts as you, which is firstly, like with her hiatus, she's kind of like lost maybe some of the momentum she had.
Mm-hmm.
Although she still seems to be, like massively popular. But I was also thinking that with her sort of like health problems, it might be a good idea, like definitely not to rush to put her in the first row again. No, not again.
Yeah.
Not in the first row. So, like second row on the end is it's a good slot without it sort of like being too much overt pressure.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah.
Because I think unlike Minimin, I think Kuboshi is quite popular with management. So, I would sort of like Kuboshi to come back in quite a good place, but sort of like not in a kind of place where there's going to be lots and lots of attention placed on her that maybe she might not be ready to deal with again yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good moderation, like a position that's both prominent enough for her to kind of regain her momentum, but also not like rushing too much and giving her too much pressure when she's not yet fully recovered. And
Plus, like also like Kaboshi is not my favourite third gen. She's kind of like about in the middle.
mm-hmm.
Because I mean, like I really like third gen, so that's actually not a bad place to be.
Mm-hmm.
But like I put her there
Mm-hmm.
because like I do think she will end up being very important, and like I like her. She's not my
Mm-hmm.
favourite, but I definitely like her. She's always kind of very positive about everything that she's doing.
Yeah.
Like she kind of doesn't have the energy of sort of like Makai Hazuki or like someone like that, but she's definitely
Yeah.
always kind of like very like pleased to be. She's always pleased to be involved, I think, which is something that's
Mm.
very nice to see.
Yeah, that's true. She's also very good at singing. She's one of the stronger, well, maybe the strongest singer in Virgin.
Oh yeah,
And
really.
yeah,
I'm so bad at sort of like keeping up on this kind of thing. I mean, it is you can almost just feel the sort of like K-pop antiness sort of like spilling out from me because it's like I never sort of think about how much talent the members I like actually have. I just go by who I like.
well,
Um,
I think we're being honest and fair. To be honest, I feel like sometimes people who stress talent in the end of the day will like certain member who are not as talented as some other member because of their personal charisma.
at
I
least we're not
think
lying about standing talent.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? I think it's totally fair that our favorite are not necessarily the most talented, but yeah, I think it's just worth mentioning too, right? I think Kuboshi is a very good singer, and I mentioned how the front center three for my senbatsu all are decently good singer with musical experience. She kind of fit that bill, and she's also close to Ikuzan, and in my senbatsu, she's pretty close in position to her, so I feel like that can be helpful when it comes to building rapport. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a consideration I have as well.
So, who have you got on the other side, on the right side of the second row?
I have Minami, but the other Minami, Hoshino Minami.
Hoshino Minami.
Yes. Minami is interesting. I think she have a lot of casual fans, and I'm never too sure exactly how that happened. I think she's just very cute and people appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, she's also still young, and that being in the second row is a good place for you to be. Like, you might not be in the front, but you're also not at the back, and that's a good place to have exposure, but also a good place to kind of hold the fort and let people know you're there. And like I said, I think she have a lot of casual fans, so that's a good place to be to let people know that you're still there.
Yeah, that plus like Minami's really popular as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's one of the most popular members who still actually does handshakes.
Mm.
Like
That's
especially
true.
like I'm not even there's only like a handful of members from first gen who still do them. Like I think it might even only be um Kanarin, Kanarin and
Mm.
Minami.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Maybe Inoue Saidi still does them as well. I'm not sure, but yeah. So yeah, good choice there.
Mm-hmm.
Should like moving on to the back row here.
Mm-hmm.
In the sort of like center position of the back row,
Mm-hmm.
that's where I've put Momoko,
Momoko, yeah.
because like Momoko's a management push, and like I like her as well.
Mm-hmm.
I also kind of want to avoid. I mean, while kind of like Momoko is, um, like I like Momoko, but I've put her in the center because while there's sort of like other people who I've put further up, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want what happened to Hori to happen to her as well.
Mm.
So, she's back in third row, but that is at least in the best third row position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a good compromise between like not being in the front and center, but also still like having a foot in the senbatsu. I do think she has a lot of potential. I mean, at the beginning, I did mention that for me, she's kind of up and down sometimes. I sometimes feel like she's cool. Sometimes she maybe quite a bit too much for my taste. But but yeah, I feel like she's been really very good, very decent on
I
television.
think the thing that's kind of like won me over to Momoko, and think the thing that's won quite a lot of people over to Momoko, is just the fact that she's deeply, deeply weird. And because she's so weird, it's kind of like really hard to tell what she's gonna do next. So I
Mm,
think that there's kind of like, it is quite like interesting to sort of like watch Momoko.
that's true. I feel like she's very comfortable on television as well. Like I mentioned that she was um on the U show, you know, the one where you go to interview foreigners in Japan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like I think I can get it right this time. Uh, no, I can't get it right this time. It's because the sentence structure of it's really weird. Like it's not normal Japanese, and I can never remember which way round the words in it come.
Yeah, it's a long and weird name, but yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's "You wa nani o shi ni Nihone," but anyway,
But yeah, I thought she did quite well there. I especially liked the portion they didn't show where she managed to get her girl kimono.
yeah, that's right. And also, like when they were on like Uchi no Gaia,
Mm-hmm.
Momoko was really funny.
Yeah,
Like I
she
know
was.
that to a certain extent, part of what's funny about her is like unintentional, but like her
Mm-hmm.
sort of like when she sort of like just pulled away from Goto,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so funny. Like I don't think there's any other members in the group who can react like that.
Yeah, it's
But
great television.
but anyway, who have you got there?
For me, I have someone that's I mean, it's opposite Morocco, but anyway, I'll just say her name is Koloko. I have
Kotoko.
yes, Koloko.
Yeah.
I guess the best way to describe it is like this is the kind of a last attempt push kind of thing. I don't know is that quite right. Like Kodoko is very pretty. She's often the member that people talk about, but she's not very good at expressing herself. She's not very good at attracting attention to herself. So unless something is done to really kind of put her front and center, I feel like she won't have a chance, and she will just be there and nothing will happen. And to be honest, that's kind of a waste. She does have some interesting side,
But I mean,
but
again, like Momoko, Kotoko is very, very strange, which again makes it like quite interesting to watch her because you don't know what's going to happen, what you're going to
true,
get there.
true. Like, uh, yeah, like she's weird, and sometimes she's really interesting and fun when it comes to television, but most of the time she's just kind of like there, and I don't know. She's not really good at expressing herself, I think, but I do feel like she despite that she generate talk, she's someone that everyone's kind of interested in, but never get to see much to care too much. So
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I was thinking of like several second gens who, um, like I wanted to put in because they'd not been on a single before.
mhm.
Um, so I kind of wanted to put Kotoko in, but there were too many of those members, and I ended
Yeah.
up choosing some different ones. But I actually agree with your reasoning, which is that actually, you know, like Kotoko is a good member, but honestly, without management push, I don't know how successful she can be.
hmm Yeah, like
because obviously she's like remained fairly unpopular
obscure.
over the years, but I think to a certain extent it's just because management has never tried her.
True. Like I want to give her a shot. Like I don't want to like force push her to the end of the earth, no, but I want to give her a shot and just see how it goes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I feel like putting her in the center of her role is kind of a good way to do it.
I mean, one of the things that I sort of like mention is that I think, like in previous episodes, but also just sort of like when I'm talking to people in general, is that I think the idea of some of the second gen members who've been in there, like in the group for almost half a decade, graduating without a single A side is just incredibly sad
That's true.
because it's so avoidable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very sad that you graduate without being on a single A side.
Because there's no member in second gen, definitely not now, who doesn't deserve to have been in an A side at least once. They're all
True.
really good members.
True.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about second gen,
Mm-hmm.
the member I've got to the left of Costco is Ki-chan.
Mm.
We've talked about Ki-chan already. I kind of almost just feel regret about doing it this way now because, I don't want Ki-chan to sort of like not be an important member of the group anymore
Mm-hmm.
because she was, and then fans were just terrible to her and she left. It's like Ki-chan's hiatus is not of her own. She didn't create any of her own problems.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so maybe it would have been better to put her further up to sort of like, make a kind of statement of this is how much we value her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, again, I think because I've tried to go with members that are popular and then sort of rearrange it into a sort of like formation that pleases me more.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's why I put Ki-chan there, but like, yeah, maybe I should have just put her further up.
No, I think it's fair. I mean, the rationale, the first assumption for both and Betsu are different. I think for you were trying to make sure the single is successful first and foremost.
Plus the other thing is, like the other thing that I want to sort of like make clear is that while it would have been, well, I think it was a good idea for them to leave her out for the last single because she was coming back from, like something which seemed genuinely upsetting. I think there's no way that Ki-chan should be left out of senbatsu or merit. She should definitely be there.
Mm, that's true.
If you're not sort of like wrapping her in cotton wool anymore, she should be there.
Mm-hmm.
So, who did you put?
Right beside Kotoko to her right, to our left, I have Ayane there.
Ayane.
Yes. She's doing a lot better than Kotoko, I think. She was in Senbatsu last single, I believe, and she did well. Her handshake number went up, and I think she got a lot of attention for the few times she showed up in Nogi 2. So she's doing well, but then she didn't get to further that because the next single she's moved back down, so I thought that was a shame. Also,
you know what? I actually think, following on from what I said about Ki-chan, I think Ayane is another member who actually probably should be in Senbatsu or Merit. I say this because kind of like, for one thing, she is actually a pretty senior member now, and her handshake sales are actually very solid. It's kind of like when I actually went back and looked at them for the last episode, they're much better than I thought they would be.
Yeah,
like
I think
it's quite obvious that actually Ayane does actually have like a very like broad and committed fan base.
Yeah, I think one of the thing people that was not obvious to people is that Ayana is actually very warm and fuzzy in her handshake.
Yeah.
Like there were Ayana fans that post picture of like two picture, like one of her when you see her in on television and stuff, and then another one of her when you go to handshake, and the picture of her in handshake is like all smiley and fuzzy and warm, and like she's a very approachable, likable individual.
One thing I would also say is kind of like, you know, like Ayane actually does have like a good fan base, and also kind of like her confidence has really, really increased, and I actually think she's really, really good value whenever she appears as like a member of the main group. But the other thing is if you want to do a single which is like serious in any way, her face is great on TV. If you sort of like go for some kind of like slightly more emo theme for the single, she's absolutely perfect. Like her sort of like fierce look is like fierce.
yeah, and it fit with her interests. You know, one of her interests is that she liked these what do you call these ancient marching song. Do you know what I mean?
I can kind of imagine what you're talking about, but I don't know what they're called. No.
Yeah, like on her segment on their 46-hour television, they talk about her interests, and her interest is in these ancient marching songs. In fact, in one segment where they were facing off against a Chris King, she was able to correctly answer the name of a few songs that the Chris King wasn't able to, because you know she liked these things, she knows these things, and these things are obscure enough that even a Chris King can't immediately answer them. So
like,
that was
her interests are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, like she liked plane model, she liked Gundam model, she liked these marching bands.
I mean, I've avoided calling Ayane Plain Chan during the podcast because I think there's just so many people who aren't going to get it. That's what I always call her on Twitter, Plain Chan. But yeah, it's too confusing for people who don't know that.
True.
I'm never going to call her that here. So yeah, like again, like a great choice, I think. So on Kotako's right, that's where I've put Hori Miona. Again, like I kind of like obviously like I love Hori Miona, but I kind of think that I've put her here because again I wasn't quite sure where to place her. It's not a terrible place to put her.
True.
It's not a very good place, sort of like based on where she's been before, but it's not horrible. So yeah, like I mean, like I think you sort of like I've put Ki-chan and Hori like either side of Momoko because they're the sort of like more prominent second gen members. So I kind of like wanted to like pair them up a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Who have you got down there?
I have Ito Juna.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe she have been in her senbatsu before, right?
No, she hasn't been, which is kind of like I'm always just like endlessly going on about this because I've wanted Juna to be in a single for probably about 2 years or so now.
Yeah, that sounds fair. About right too. But yeah, Juna's one of those members that I feel like we are missing out on somehow.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest, she's not my favorite, but I can see that she's very popular in the group. Like, in the group among the members.
Yeah, she is.
She's very popular. Everyone loves her. And when I see that, that make me go like, I'm missing something. And the reason that I don't know enough about her is because she never been prominent enough, to be honest. Like, she never been in the front row. She never been in senbatsu even. She I don't think she even be in the front of unders. Even,
yeah, well,
right?
Jenna is one of the. She's one of the members who I really, really got into because of the original Nogizaka series. Like, I always really, really enjoyed watching her there. Like, she comes across as a sort of like very, very warm, sort of like knowledgeable and like occasionally funny member. Although she could, like, she's funny in a strange kind of way because she's so not funny. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, I get what I mean. Like, she's very approachable. She's very likable. Everybody in the group seems to love her. Yet she's not popular. Like, she's not prominent at all, and it made me feel like she should at least get a shot. And let's see how it goes, right?
And she's got an extremely cute face, which doesn't hurt.
And one last thing to mention is that another reason that I think we're missing out on her is because she's their main person in that play of hers, the one where she and what's her name, the other girl from Hiragana Kayaki, like they both are playing the main characters in that musical.
Oh right, sorry, I kind of got confused because I thought you were talking about the one she did with Misa and Kuboshi.
Yeah, she's in that one too, which is appropriate since both of them are in my senbatsu as well. But yeah, I was talking about the other one, and she's one of the main character, and I think that what that tells us is that she's very good at musical, and people can see that. But once again, us fans don't really get to see that side of her at all because she doesn't really get the opportunity, the exposure. And like I said, people in the group love her, so I feel like she has a lot of potential, and she deserves a shot to see how it goes.
So yeah, so I, like in the sort of like middle left position, that's where I put Maichin. Like, again, like, it's another member that I love, and also Maichin has kind of like really got so far, like, pretty much completely on her own effort. I mean, when she joined the group, she was still working her other job because she kind of never thought she'd get that popular within the group. But she's become like massively popular. Like, she's another member, as well as Jinna, who like members obviously really, really like, and is sort of like very good for keeping the members together. And I like, I think she's got like a sort of like great personality that always like comes across really well on TV. So yeah, like, I think she's also very, very popular now with fans. Like, maybe like one of the most popular members. So, she's definitely there on that basis as well. So, yep, that's where I put Maichin. And also fair. Kind of like, again, like, one of the things that I had in mind is like I wanted to put in quite a lot of second gen members. And she's sort of like representative of sort of, like second gen sort of like succeeding as well, which, like is great.
That's true. We are on the center left, is it?
Yeah, so like, if you sort of like put it in a line, there's like 7 members, and this is the second.
Okay.
From the left.
So for me, on the center left, I have Ranze.
Ranze, yeah.
Yes. Ranze is always a member I quite like. I actually don't think I explained why I like her quite well last time. Besides being just a very cute person, I think she's one of the better dancers in second gen. And I also think she's able to like, when she do go on television, the few times she goes on, she's pretty weird, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Ranza is bizarre.
Like
In fact, actually, I would say that in a lot of ways she's actually weirder than like, like she's weirder than somebody like Kotoko. Really.
yeah, maybe that's why they're friends. But yeah, she's weird, and sometimes I feel like that's something we should get to see more. Like she claims to be a doe M, but sometimes she acts more like a doe S than a doe M, and yeah, it's weird. And I think even if we disregard just what she is, I think she is one of the more popular second gen, like the one with
yeah, Ranza is very popular.
Yeah, she's like the second gen, one of the second gen with a brighter future compared to some other one where there's a less obvious path forward. So
I'll say that I actually didn't put Ranza in, but one thing which is kind of like an argument in Ranza's favor is that Ranza has in fact sort of like been in and out of senbatsu, and maybe based on her popularity just should be in.
That's true. Yeah, and I feel like it would be a good idea just to have her there as a stable, but it's very competitive to be honest, so that's very hard. Like, even as I composing this fantasy senbatsu, I had a hard time the spot I got. Like, there's so much member that I'm like, should be in, but then but I want to cover this ground or cover that ground.
Yeah,
so
I think that if we sort of like discuss who we've left out, it's just going to kind of end up taking too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can already say that I've left out a few members that people are going to probably have a go at me for leaving out.
Yeah,
at least 2 or 3.
Yeah, I can say the same for myself. Yeah.
Especially given who I decided to put in as well. So on the other side, on the right, in the middle, that's where I've put Ayane. Because I really like Ayane too. And I kind of I actually think that in senbatsu is where she belongs now. Especially because it's Ayane had a really difficult and slow beginning to her career.
True.
But just the advances she's made in the last, I'd say year and a half have just been amazing.
That's true.
Both in terms of her popularity, but just in terms of kind of I think she's finally found a way of showing who she is to people in a way that sort of feels natural and people can relate to. Because she is a really fun, interesting person, but she's just very, very laconic.
True. So that's
I kind of remember when Ayane started sort of smiling on TV. I just remember it was a big thing. Everyone sort of went crazy when it started happening, and
True.
that happens all the time. And it's just amazing how comfortable she sort of become with just sort of being, out there on display in a way that she was clearly uncomfortable with being on display when she first became an idol, and it just seems so natural to her now.
Yeah, she's a very fascinating person, I think.
Yeah, and I think we should sort of reward the progress that she's made there.
True. And people say one of the thing about being a J idol fan is to see growth, and she exemplified that.
Yeah, she really does. So
yeah.
Again, as we did with Minimin, kind of we've really talked a lot about how great Ayane is. So I'm just gonna. Who have you put in that position?
This is the center right?
Yeah.
I said right 3 times. I have Yamazaki there.
Okay.
She is once again a second gen member that I don't think ever made it to senbatsu once.
No, she hasn't. Believe me,
Yeah.
I checked because I kind of like every single time I'm like, why will she never get chosen? So I definitely know that. Yeah.
There's so many members like that. Yeah, Yamazaki is one of them. She's likable. She's on history show these days a lot, and in the most recent one, in fact, she did quite well. She got third place.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not a pure history show. It's a quiz show with a good portion of it on history question. But yeah, she's doing round those. She's showing herself.
That's one of the
Yeah.
things I like about her is she has always come across as someone who would be very, very easy to sort of like relate to and communicate with in real life. Like that's one of the things that I really like about it, because I mean, it's, you know, like I love history as well.
Yeah.
And
Same.
you know, it's really, really easy for me to sort of like imagine a sort of situation where I would have like an actual conversation with her as a person. And again, sort of like second gen all come across as actually being, you know, like they seem like friendly people, which I think actually kind of like helps to explain how second gen has managed to stay together for so long without really getting very much.
Yeah.
Is, you know, like I think that they sort of like found it quite easy to sort of like get along with other people in the group.
Yeah, I think so. Yamazaki struck me as someone that's very friendly and very easy to approach. And yeah, if we are going to do a top 5 member I wish to chat with, I say she'll be definitely in the top 5, maybe top 3 or top because of her interest in history. And yeah, I mean, she's also one of those members that's kind of like Juna that never really gotten too far in the group. But
yeah, Renachi has just genuinely never been pushed at all.
Yeah.
Like there were, because like again, like Renachi is like another member whose handshakes actually sell really well.
You
know,
yeah,
she's got 30 out of 30 for the last 2 singles. And I kind of think that there's other sort of like members like maybe like Midia, who are in the same kind of like overall like bracket of popularity, but like Midia sometimes gets something. Renachi has never got anything, like ever.
True.
And I kind of think that if she were to, again, going back to this whole idea, if Renachi were to graduate without ever having been in an A side ever, it would just be like such a massive injustice, I think.
True. I think there's an interesting contrast with Juna in that both of them are similar in the sense that they're very likable member, popular in their group among members, but like never prominent. But they both have some significant outside job. For Nenachi is that quiz I mentioned.
Yeah.
For Juna is the musicals. And I found that very interesting. Like, so even though they're not getting much when it comes to like purely group stuff, like A-side and stuff, and that's still a shame. That's still something that ideally should be addressed. But it's relieving for me to know that they're getting something that is like...
that's one of the good things about Nogizaka is it kind of seems quite open when it comes to the members doing things outside the group. I kind of think that if they'd been in AKB, Renachi and Juna would have had an even tougher time, like finding things to do. So like another choice I definitely think is really good. Just moving on to the last 2 members, like on the far left, that is where I've put Juna, because obviously, like as I said, I'm kind of like dying for Juna to be on a single, but I also kind of like I put her on the far left because like she's the least popular out of the members I've chosen. So I guess like by default I just sort of put her in the worst position. Not very nice, I guess. But yeah, like I think we covered in pretty good detail why I like Jenna so much, so I put her there.
Yeah, that's fair.
So who did you put in there in that position?
For me, I have Kaz.
Kaz, okay.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bad position,
but Kaz has had that position before and dealt with it.
True. That's one of the things I consider. There's also two other main things I was considering. When it came to the final two position, the dilemma facing me was whether I want to squeeze in as much second gen as possible, like folks I feel like should be at least in one A side and would probably never get a chance or unlikely to get a chance, or should I like really at least put the prominent member at the edge? Because there's still a couple of prominent members that I don't have in senbatsu as of my final composition with these two spot remaining, and it just feels really weird. And
did you put Kaz in because you thought it would be too awkward to be talking with me if you hadn't put her in there somewhere? Because that's a legitimate reaction. Like, I don't think that's like a terrible thing to do.
Maybe that was a consideration. Maybe. But no, beside that, there were legitimate consideration about like the prominence of members who also bring a lot of authority. So
but I think Kaz is a bit of a weird member in the sense you could put her pretty much anywhere, because like Kaz does bring things as a kind of like variety member.
Mm-hmm.
But she also is one of the she's one of the few members in that sort of like core popular group of first gens who would never be considered under any circumstances for center.
That's true.
Like Misa or like Manatan might actually end up being a center and it would be justified.
Mm-hmm.
But Kaz just will never be center.
Yeah,
and she knows that, so I kind of think that in a way, if Kaz is in senbatsu somewhere, that's probably about as much as she or her fans want, because there's no point jockeying to get in a better position to get closer to the center, because it's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I don't ever see her being center, and that's unfortunate, but yeah, the other thing is that I feel like she brings a lot to her group, and as you mentioned, like she's a variety member that's very funny, and I feel like it's very easy for her to bring others in too, right? So she can easily like bring others into conversation, and some of the members who I'm throwing in might have a tougher time speaking up themselves or expressing themselves.
Yeah, because we both sort of like put in quite a lot of like less experienced members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's about having a person who's there to support the others as well, and I feel like Kaz can do that really well.
Okay, so for the final position, far right, that's where I've put Renachi. So part of what I was doing was I was putting the two first-time members, like Jinna and Renachi, in sort of like matching spots.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talk quite a lot about why we think Renachi's great, so I don't know how much more we can sort of like talk about there.
True.
But like, yeah, that's basically, so I put like Jinna and Renachi in a sort of like matching position on the two far spots on the back line. Because I kind of wanted to put them in sort of like together in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds fair. Like sometimes I try to match them as well.
So who have you put in that final spot?
Okay, so for me, my final spot went to Manatsu.
Okay.
Yeah. My rationale for her is very similar to Kazumi's.
Yeah.
She's someone who's very prominent that would be really weird to not see in senbatsu at all. Like, can you imagine Kaz and Manatsu in unders? Like, that would be quite mind-blowing, to be honest.
I think the other thing there is like Manatsu, like Kaz, is another member who won't sort of like won't lose her temper if she's not in a great position. Like they're both quite mild-mannered and they can sort of like deal with, like not being in the best position because they're that kind of person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's just like Manatsu. Just like Kazumi. She's also another member that's very good at supporting other member and basically bring others out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, I was very hoping I can somehow squeeze in Lydia, because then we can have all the Gundam member that's still in the group be in senbatsu with her.
Yeah, so, I mean, I had a sort of, like, weird moment because I kind of, I was looking at the second-gen members who'd never been in the senbatsu who really deserved to be in it. Turned sort of like, it came down to Renachi, Juna, and Midia. And in a way, kind of like, if I was being objective, Midia will probably be the most, like, appropriate member of those three to put in.
Mm-hmm.
But, at the end of the day, I just chose Renatsha and Juna because they were the ones I liked the most. Which is kind of bad, but, yeah.
Well, this is our fantasy senbatsu. If you don't like it, go make your own one. And I do feel like, on a serious note, media have a better chance of getting into future senbatsu compared to Juna or Nenachi.
Yeah.
So if our objective is to get a member who we feel like have potential but is not getting any chance at all, a shot, then the best person to push would be Juna and Nenachi instead of media, in my opinion.
I mean, Juna and Renachi, I've also partly put them in because I kind of feel like this might be the last chance for them.
True.
Because at the moment, kind of like Juna and Renachi are both actually doing quite well in their handshake sales. And because a lot of the first gen members who've kind of stepped down from them, like they're kind of like actually picking up a lot of the slack that's been left by those members. But on the other hand, with fourth gen coming in, if fourth gen sort of like perform anywhere near as well as third gen, though that kind of contribution might not mean that much. So, like, I think Juna and Renachi both deserve not to walk away from the group without ever having been chosen for an A side.
True.
But it might also be their last opportunity as well. So, yeah, I've put them in because I just hate that idea so much.
Yeah, it'll be a haunting prospect, really. So,
but yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like this is the natural end. Like we've both talked about everyone that we've put in. So, I guess it's sort of time to sort of talk about the next episode we're doing is going to be our top fives, and the top fives have been submitted to us by people on Twitter. We've got a whole list of them. There's definitely enough to make an entire episode out of. But if anyone is listening would sort of like to hear about us from something like this, if anyone has any further top fives they want us to talk about, like either let me or Rusty know, and we'll try and squeeze it in.
And yeah, maybe give us some idea of who your top five would be for various different ideas too, because there's some very.
That would be something that like you can just talk to us about on Twitter, because like we'd like to know as well. And the same goes for like obviously, I think that if me and Rusty sort of like talk to each other about the sort of like various members that we've left out, this episode would just stretch on and on and on. But I mean, I'm sure that anyone who's got to the end of this episode has probably got one or two comments to say about members that we've cut, because me and Rusty have both cut like popular members. We both have, like I know we have. So if anyone's got any particular complaints, come to us on Twitter and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, like, come to this room, I just want to talk. That kind of moment. Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the episode. So it's goodbye from me, John.
And from me, Rusty.